Hey, hello there, Sully here. Welcome to my new series, So You Want to Be a Truck Driver. This is the first of what I hope will be a series of videos which I'm hoping will be of interest to anyone considering a career in the trucking industry. I'll be talking about my conceptions and misconceptions, as well as the advantages and disadvantages to a driving career, and what you can expect. But first, if you're not a subscriber, I don't know how to ask this any simpler. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that as this series is posted, you'll be among the first to see the informative videos that I'll be posting. Now, before I start, I've been going over my analytics, and it's like 89% of my views are coming from non-subscribers. Most of you are watching on a link from Facebook, or because I post all my videos on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram. And, you know, that's cool and I appreciate you watching the videos. But if you're viewing, you should be subscribing. And you should be sharing, especially if there's somebody in your Facebook community who is thinking about becoming a truck driver or might know somebody who's becoming a truck driver. They can share this video. Now, you never know who'll be affected by sharing this, but somebody could. And it would help me immensely. It doesn't cost you anything except the possibility of having to open a Gmail account, and that doesn't cost you anything either. Now, if you do open a Gmail account, you'll also be able to view YouTube much easier. So, help me grow. Please like and share these videos, and of course, subscribe. Now, in this series, I plan on interviewing truck drivers and asking them about their choice of a career in trucking. I plan on asking them why they chose trucking, what issues are most important to them, and what they would do differently. In this, the first episode, I plan on talking about my decision to choose a career as a truck driver. For me, it all started in November of 1992. I had spent the previous 5 years working for True Green Lawn Service. And when I was there, I did everything. I did sales, I did customer complaints, I did quality control, I did lawn care applications, but my primary job was tree and shrub care. And I was pretty good at it too. I learned a lot on the job, and I learned a lot about horticulture. And I was really feeling good about it, but sometime in the year 1992, that's when True Green purchased ChemLawn, and I knew that layoffs were coming. I really thought that I wasn't going to get the axe though, but I was wrong. I won't go into what happened, but it could have gotten ugly. I felt that I was discriminated against by the new branch manager. He had been the sales manager, and he and I had philosophical differences about what we would call his ethics. And the fact of the matter is, he was more concerned with numbers than with the technicians making money. We weren't high on his priority list. But he actually did me a favor by laying me off. He handed me a lemon, so I decided to make lemonade. Well, it didn't take me long to start looking for another job. I would get the Sunday paper and look through the want ads. But in 1992, there was a recession on, and for a person with limited skills, there weren't a lot of jobs out there. But I did see that there were quite a few ads for truck drivers. And I was also reading articles talking about the driver shortage. I won't get into that later. I'll do a video on why I think that's a myth, but I won't discuss that here. But I thought, hey, driving a truck. Even in a recession, there'll be a need for truck drivers because people still got to eat, don't they? So there was only one thing that I lacked, and that was my CDL. So I started looking into truck driving school. There were commercials on TV advertising various truck driving schools, and I called a few of them. And one of them got back to me and actually sent one of their recruiters over to my apartment, and we had a chat. Now, Back then, the tuition for truck driving school was about $4,000. These days, it can be upwards of $10,000, but there are options that I will get into at a later date as to how you can get your CDL and get through school. But this recruiter gave me his pitch, and he assured me that there were grants available and that I could get a loan. And there were also programs for laid-off people, such as myself. And I'll tell you the truth, I liked what I heard. So I signed up. Now, when I did sign up, the only class that they had available, unless I wanted to wait a couple months, was a weekend class, which the weekend class was designed for people who had jobs but were looking to train on the weekends. And that was a 20-week program. But I found out that there was a program for dislocated workers, workers who had lost their jobs due to unfair competition, corporate buyouts, just attrition. TruGreen had bought out their leading competitor. And while we couldn't call that unfair competition, it did lessen the demand for lawn care technicians. And the fact of the matter is, I was eligible for this program. I signed up for it, and I was able to get into the class, which had already started. But when I joined this class, I was at the same exact point that I was at during the weekend classes. You know, so all I had to do was go down, take an 8th grade level reading test, and just prove that I was laid off, that I had lost my job as a result of circumstances well beyond my control. And I got into that 8-week, 40-hour-a-week program. Now, I'm very proud and a little humble to inform you that I graduated first in my class. Now, on the very first day of driving school, the instructors got us all in the room. There was about 40 of us, and they told it like it is. They told us to look around the room. And they said that everybody you see here, half of them will not complete the class. Half of them will not complete the program. Half will drop out, which is about average. But that's the average of anybody who goes to a school for technical training. Because many people go in with false hopes, false misconceptions, false ideas about what's going to be offered. And hey, some people just realized that they weren't cut out for the life. Now, they also told us that of the half that would graduate, that half of that number would quit the industry within their first year of working. And of those who graduated, 90% would be out of trucking in 10 years. So they said, look around, because of the 40 people in this room, only 2 will be a career truck driver. So while everybody was looking around in the room and saying, boy, I wonder if I'm going to be one of the ones that drop out, I picked out 19 people and said, tough luck. I knew then and there that I was going to be the one to beat the odds, and I was right. So I graduated, and it didn't take me long to find a job. Recruiters would come around to the school, we'd fill out applications, and I got an offer from several trucking companies. I got an offer from Schneider, I got an offer from H.O. Walding, I got an offer from a company called, I think they're called West, they're in Boyertown, PA, and I got an offer from Warner Enterprises. Of all the companies that I applied to and that made a presentation, I think I liked theirs the best. Now, I didn't understand this at the time, and if you're looking into a career as a truck driver, you will find out that recruiters for companies who come to the driving schools, they're salesmen. They're going to stress the benefits of working for a company, and like any salesman, anybody trying to sell a product, they're going to ask for the order. Okay, they're going to work hard, they're going to work you. They're not trying to get money out of your pocket, they're trying to get you to apply, they're trying to get you to come to work for that company. Now, I worked for Warner for about 3 years, and I did get an education. I got an education in how little trucking pays compared to all the things I heard when I was thinking about going to driving school and all the sunshine that was blowing up my butt. And I found out that the driver shortage that everybody talked about was an absolute myth. What these companies are doing, and they were doing it then and they're doing it now, is they are saying, well, we have a need for drivers because there's a driver shortage. Well, why is there a driver? They have the shortage of drivers. What they're looking to do is replace drivers who come to work for them and leave because everything that they were promised turned out to be false, and they think there's better opportunities elsewhere. I realized that as soon as possible, and I also realized the little trick that they did was they tried to keep you out on the road as much as possible. And when you're on the road, they try to keep you from getting home because they're afraid that if you get some time home, you're going to pick up a local newspaper and you're going to look for a job closer to home. The more you're on the road, the more you're out there, the less likely you are to apply for a job with another carrier. Now, when I was with Warner, I worked in the dedicated division. I worked in the Eastern Dedicated Division, and we were headquartered out of Columbia, Maryland. And I saw home once a week. I was only home for maybe, I'd get home Friday night and have to go back out Sunday morning. But I had enough time to grab that paper and take it with me and make phone calls. And make phone calls I did until I got a job offer from a company who was a U.S. mail contractor. Now, when I got that job, I thought I died going to heaven because, first of all, I was driving a day cab, which meant I was home every day. So I was mostly working at night, which was fine with me. At least I wasn't out on the road 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time. At least I didn't have to beg for my days off. Because when you work for a mail contractor, you bid on your run, you work a set run. You don't have a dispatcher that says, okay, today you're going to Cincinnati. Today you're going to Cleveland. Today you're going to Richmond. Today you're going to Atlanta. You would get on a run and they would have relays set up. For instance, I was on the Cincinnati run. I would drive out to Somerset, PA and meet a driver who shuttled between Somerset and St. Clairsville, Ohio. And the driver coming from Cincinnati would meet that driver there. He would go into, they had an apartment there, and he would go and take a break there. While this relay driver would run from St. Clairsville to Somerset, I would swap with him. I'd start back, and he would head out that way. And the hours of service were different back then. We didn't have that 14-hour rule back then. But I did mail for about 9 years. And as I said, the nice thing about hauling mail is it's hourly, and it's the Department of Labor, not the company, that determines your rate of pay. Now, as I said, I worked there for about 9 years. And during that 9 years, there were a lot of changes in the company. They had made a lot of bad decisions, acquiring companies with a lot of debt in order to acquire their routes and their equipment, which I thought was a bad idea. Because when you buy a company, you buy their debt. You buy their assets, you also buy their liability. If they just would have waited for the company to go under and then bid on the contracts and then offer to buy the equipment from the liquidator, they probably would have been better off. But there was also a drop in the volume of mail because we're talking about the period when snail mail was being replaced by email, and people were able to pay their bills through email rather than having to write a check, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, stick it in the mailbox. Now all you had to do is get your computer out, a few clicks, you pay the bills. But the writing was on the wall, and this company, while they're still in business, they were pretty much closing down their operation in the Philadelphia area. And because they kept jerking us around and playing with our benefits, and since they couldn't cut our rate of pay, they were trying to cut down the amount of hours that they paid on the runs. They thought, oh, sure, we'll be happy to do this. We'll be happy to have a job. Well, they were wrong, and a bunch of us got together and organized the drivers, and we voted the Teamsters in. And rather than deal with the union, the company just decided to shut down the terminal. But they really jerked me around one time. They cut out one driver's run on the contract I was on, and they said, well, it was your run that was cut. No, my run was still there. They said, well, we just changed the times of the run, so your run was the one that was eliminated. And I said, well, do you really want me to stay around? Well, yeah, we want you, but we're going to do this and that and the other thing for you. We're going to give you an extra board run. So I went out that day, and I went to a local company called Atkinson Freight Lines, and before I walked out the door, I had a job offer. So I told them I want to give them 2 weeks. I submitted my letter of resignation. And the funny thing is, the driver manager said, can't we work something out? I said, we had the chance to work something out. This is how you told me we were going to work it out. So, you only get one opportunity to do that to me. So I went to work for Atkinson, and I lasted there for 7 years. And the sad thing is, they weren't a big company. They were a regional truckload carrier. I was out maybe 4 or 5 nights a week, and I was usually home on weekends. I'd usually get home Friday night or maybe early Saturday morning, and I would go out Monday morning. And it worked out pretty well. And because it was a union company, they paid a little bit better than the average bear, but they just couldn't cut it. They were having troubles. There was, once again, a drop in the volume of freight, and there were a lot of the big companies that were taking the freight that Atkinson did because their drivers didn't want to go to New York City or Boston or throughout New England. We used to do that. I mean, I used to see a steady diet of New York City with that, and the fact of the matter is, that's where I learned that it's no big deal. New York City is just like any other city. Yeah, I wasn't happy about having to go out to Long Island because that place could be a real pain in the rear end, but unfortunately, the company went out of business in 2012, and really a shame that they were a victim of competition from the bigs. The shame of it was that that company had been in business for 123 years. It was started out by one man named Harry Atkinson, who had a wagon and 2 horses, and that's where the company started from. And it was an old company, a family company, a proud company, and sadly, they just couldn't hang. So it was when Atkinson went out of business that I started looking around for another job, and that's where I found Highway Transport Chemical. They're a tank line, liquid bulk, chemical grade liquid bulk. And I'll tell you what, even though I had no tank experience, they were happy to train me. And I have to say, unequivocally, nobody's paying me to say this. Nobody's saying, well, thank you for saying this. I am saying this from the bottom of my heart, that was absolutely the best experience I had as a truck driver. Not only were they the best company that I worked for, they're probably the best company that any of you out there could work for. Now, if you're just getting into it, I got some bad news for you. You have to have experience to work for them. But, if you go work for somebody and get your experience, after 2 years, you come there, you apply for a job, it'll be the best thing you do, driver, I'm telling you. And if you're already a driver and you're looking for a new home, I urge you to contact Highway Transport Chemical. Don't be afraid because you never pull tanks. As long as you have that tank hazmat X endorsement or can get it, and as long as you have a TWIC card or can get it, they'll hire you. They would prefer that you had a passport because they do take runs to Canada, and I'm here to tell you that the runs to Canada were money makers for me. Easy work, not a big deal. Now, sadly, my career ended in 2018 because, quite frankly, I have a spine that looks like Roosevelt Boulevard. And for those of you who aren't from Philadelphia, Roosevelt Boulevard is a road that goes like this. 12 lanes of madness through the heart of Northeast Philly. I also had some kidney problems. I had kidney stones the size of shooter marbles. And and I had to have procedures. One of the procedures to remove the kidney stone actually damaged one of my kidneys to the point where I required hospitalization for about a week. And when I first was diagnosed with kidney stones, I had been sick for a while, and it turned out that I had sepsis, urinary tract infection, and E. coli. Now, the mistake I made was I was so sick. It was my last run, and I was leaving out of West Hill, Ontario. I should have gone to the hospital in Canada. Would have saved myself about $10,000. But like the stubborn Irishman that I am, I plodded on and got as far as Gibson, Pennsylvania, when I realized that I couldn't go on it, and I was really sick, and I actually expired for about a minute on the table while they were putting the stent in one of my kidneys. Fortunately, I was revived, and I'm here to tell the tale. But chronic back problems, kidney issues, that ended my career about 4 or 5 years sooner than I had planned, but I had to go out on disability. All in all, I have to say that choosing truck driving as a career was a good decision for me. I'm a single guy. I've never been married. I've, of course, had a few girlfriends over the years. A few of them I even lived with, but they understood the lifestyle. They understood that it required me to be away. And actually, for some of them, it was a pretty good deal. They actually didn't mind the fact that I was gone because, quite frankly, it made homecoming that much nicer. And I have to say that for a guy who had a high school education, 1 year of college when I dropped out, I think I did pretty good for myself. I never expected to be at 1 month before my 1 month before my 63rd birthday to be making YouTube videos, but it is what it is. Now, my plan is to cobble together some informative videos, which my goal will be to educate prospective drivers, those considering a career in the trucking industry. I watch a lot of trucking vlogs, and they're all getting these questions from people saying, I want to be a truck driver, what do I have to do? Well, that's what I'm going to address in this series. The whole process, how you enroll in a driving school, what you can expect from a driving school, what you can expect from a career in driving. And I also plan to interview drivers and ask them what they like about driving, what they dislike about driving, how they got into driving, how long they've been driving, what they would be doing if they weren't driving, what it is about driving that makes it satisfying, or what about it that makes it dissatisfying. I'm going to ask them questions like, where do you get the most satisfaction, where do you get the least satisfaction, where are the roads the best, where are the roads the worst, how you deal with four-wheelers, how you deal with the public, how you deal with customers, how you deal with dispatchers. It is a pretty intricate job, but trucking is more of a lifestyle than a job. It is a job, but if you enjoy your job, you won't work a day in your life. I mean, even though I didn't work for some of the greatest companies in my career, the 25 years that I did drive a truck went by pretty fast because I always enjoyed myself out there. I always felt I was doing something essential. I was doing something that I liked, and you have to have a passion for it. I mean, it's to the point where you think, well, let me walk away from this for a little. I want to take a break from trucking. Maybe pursue other options. And when you go to pursue those other options, you find out that the only option for you is driving a truck. It's a livelihood, but it is not a hobby. There are people out there that think we do it because it's our hobby, and it's not. We're out there to make a living. We're out there to earn money. It is a romantic lifestyle, but it's also a lonely lifestyle, and many times it's boring. Many times it's dangerous, and many times it's frustrating. You will be lied to. You will be the target of scam artists and con men. You will be hated by people who have no concept of what you do. And you will be away from home, your family, and your friends for days, even weeks at a time. and you'll be living in a box, worried about where you're going to park that box, where you're going to sleep, eat, take a shower, go to the bathroom, and you're going to get the pressure put on you by your dispatcher, by your driver manager, by your safety department, and by the customers. And these are the things that I want you to take into consideration, which is the purpose of this series. Now, look for the next edition to be coming. Hopefully, within a week or so, I will conduct some interviews of drivers. I do have to look into the logistics of that. But I need to get out there and interview drivers. But in the meantime, I plan on making maybe a few more music videos or maybe some tourist videos. Yeah, just local scenery, stuff like that. Maybe just take a walk at Pennypack Park someday and make a video of the trees and the animals there. But keep in touch anyway, please. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share these videos. And hit that notification bell so that when the new videos come up in this series, you won't miss them. You'll be among the first to view them, and hopefully I'll be able to give you some informed opinion as to whether or not to pursue a career as a professional driver. But the most important thing I want to say is, before you do it, you have to make sure that it is for you. For Transitions, I'm Sully, the retired tanker yanker. Safe and happy travels.